The distress beacon pulsed weakly through the asteroid field, barely registering on Ethan Vale's scanner. Most salvage crews would have ignored it, too faint, too far into contested territory. But Ethan had always been the type to investigate the signals others dismissed. His small repair vessel, the Tinkerer's Hope, maneuvered carefully through the debris field. Centuries of mining operations had left this sector littered with unstable rock formations and derelict machinery. As he approached the beacon's source, Ethan's breath caught in his throat. Trapped between two massive ore processing pylons was a creature he'd only seen in xenobiology databases, a Dracovian. The species was legendary across the galaxy, ancient, intelligent, and fiercely protective of their pack bonds. This one was massive, easily 30 meters from snout to tail, its iridescent scales shifting between deep purple and midnight blue. One of its wings was caught in the twisted metal framework, and scorch marks suggested it had been struggling for some time. The dragon's golden eyes locked onto Ethan's vessel with an intensity that made his hands tremble on the controls. Most species in the galaxy feared humans for their recklessness, their tendency to ignore danger in pursuit of curiosity or compassion. Ethan was about to prove why. "This is insane," he muttered to himself, powering down his engines and donning his EVA suit. Absolutely insane. The Dracovian Sirath, according to the biological signature his scanner picked up, watched warily as Ethan approached with his cutting tools. The creature could have incinerated him with a single breath of plasma fire, yet it remained still, as if understanding that this strange, soft-skinned biped was attempting to help. Ethan worked methodically, his engineer's mind calculating stress points and weak spots in the wreckage. The pylon had partially collapsed during what looked like a skirmish, trapping Sirath's wing in a maze of reinforced alloy beams. Each cut had to be precise. One wrong move and the entire structure could shift, crushing the wing completely. "Easy there," Ethan said softly, though he knew the dragon couldn't understand standard. "I'm going to get you out." Hours passed. Ethan's oxygen reserves dwindled, but he refused to stop. He'd seen the desperation in those golden eyes, the same desperation he'd felt years ago when his own crew had abandoned him on a failing station. Someone had saved him then. He would pay it forward now. Finally, with a groan of stressed metal, the last beam fell away. Sirath pulled its wing free, stretching the membrane carefully. Minor tears were visible, but nothing permanent. The dragon turned its massive head toward Ethan, studying him with an intelligence that transcended language. Then Sirath did something unexpected. It lowered its head in what could only be described as a bow, a gesture of respect, of gratitude. A moment later, the dragon launched itself into the void, disappearing among the asteroids with powerful sweeps of its wings. Ethan made it back to his ship with minutes of oxygen to spare, collapsing into his pilot's chair with a mixture of exhaustion and exhilaration. He'd done it. He'd actually done it. 3 weeks later, Ethan found himself in a situation that made rescuing a dragon seem simple by comparison. His contract had taken him to the frontier world of Kara 7, where he was upgrading the mining colony's shield generators. He'd just finished the installation when the alarm screamed to life. Raiders, a fleet of Korthian warships notorious for their brutal raids on isolated colonies. The colonists scrambled to evacuate, but the math was cruel. There weren't enough transport ships. Ethan and dozens of others would be left behind, easy prey for the raiders who took pleasure in making examples of human settlements. As the first Korthian vessels entered orbital range, Ethan stood on the landing pad with the other stranded colonists, watching their fate descend from the stars. Then someone pointed at the sky. What is that? They came like a storm of living starships, dozens of Dracovians, their scales reflecting the light of Kara 7's sun in a dazzling display of colors. Leading them was Sirath, larger and more magnificent than Ethan remembered, flanked by what could only be its pack. The dragons descended on the Korthian fleet with devastating precision. Plasma breath turned shields to slag. Massive claws tore through hull plating designed to withstand military-grade weapons. The raiders, species that had terrorized this sector for decades, fled in disarray before the ancient wrath of the Dracovian pack. But the dragons weren't finished. Sirath landed on the pad before Ethan, its golden eyes filled with that same intelligent recognition. The dragon lowered itself and Ethan understood. Others from the pack did the same, offering their backs to the stranded colonists. They're offering to evacuate us, Ethan whispered in awe. What followed became legend across the frontier. The Dracovian Pack, a species that had remained aloof from galactic affairs for millennia, transported every single human to safety. They didn't just save the colony, they established a perimeter, protecting Karis 7 until proper defenses could arrive. As Cyrath prepared to depart, it touched its snout gently to Ethan's chest right over his heart. The gesture needed no translation. The dragon had brought its entire pack, had risked them all, because one human had shown compassion when it mattered most. In the days that followed, xenoanthropologists and diplomats descended on Karis 7, desperate to understand what had happened. The Dracovians had made first contact with humanity in a way no one had predicted, not through treaties or trade agreements, but through an act of reciprocal kindness. Ethan never considered himself a hero. He was just a technician who couldn't ignore a distress call. But as word spread across the galaxy of the human who had freed a dragon and earned the loyalty of an entire pack, the story reinforced something the galaxy was slowly learning about humans. They were the species that helped, even when it was illogical, even when it was dangerous, even when there was nothing to gain. And sometimes in a cold and often cruel universe that made all the difference.